Hello, and welcome to the Digital Workspace Works podcast. I'm Ryan Purvis, your host, supported by our producer Heather Bicknell. In this series, you'll hear stories and opinions from experts in the field, stories from the front lines, the problems they face and how they solved them, the areas they focused on from technology, people and processes, to the approaches they took that will help you to get to the grips with the digital workspace inner workings. So welcome, Gemma, to the Digital Workspace Works podcast. Do you want to give everyone an introduction to who you are?
Hello, and thank you for the invite, for having me here. And well, I'm Gemma Rubio. I'm from Spain, but actually I'm living in the Netherlands. And what I do, I have my own company for marketing and digital communication.
Yeah.
And I work globally. I work in many countries, different countries, in Spain, in the Netherlands, Italy, in Russia. Now I'm starting in Africa too.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Where in Africa?
In Burundi.
Jeez,
I'm starting abroad.
How did you find work in Burundi?
Sorry?
How did you find something in Burundi?
Well, they contact me to be an advisor in communication.
Yeah.
So then I say, oh, Burundi, that's interesting because it's completely different. They don't have much technology there.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. So I like challenges. Yes.
I've done some work up at that side of the world, and it is like going. When I flew to Cameroon, it was like going back in time because you flew from Johannesburg to Nairobi to Cameroon, and South Africa is kind of like a mix between a first world and a third world country. So fairly modern, but there's a little bit of Africanism. Then you get to Nairobi. This is before they had the big fire at the airport, but it's like going back to the 80s. So it's all the browns and all the rest of it. There's still a little bit of digital displays, but mostly it's those old sort of ticket tape displays. And then you fly from there to Cameroon and you land there, and it's basically a building on a tarmac, and everything's chalkboard. So it's completely devoid of technology. So it's going to be interesting for you. That's
it's a challenge. It's a technical incubator there, but they don't have easy Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So something that basic, they don't have it. So we are trying to solve how we communicate without technology, a technology project.
Jeez, that's very interesting. If you need any help, we need to get involved. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, good. So tell us a bit about, you got a marketing and communications background, and you mentioned that UX is important to that. How do you go about approaching that in a project?
How do you approach sorry, can you repeat please?
How do you go about approaching UX, user experience, in a project or getting adoption?
Yeah, well, the user experience is really important when you do communication, because we need to understand that the brain doesn't see everything on the screen and doesn't understand anything. So you need to understand, you need to know the buyer persona really good to communicate in the way they understand the world and the life. And also you need to know where to place the things on the computer for the people to see it. For example, I don't know why many companies, they put the logo in the down corner in the right, and people never look at this place in the screen. Well, not never, but most of the time we don't look there.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't put the logo there. You should put it up always in the left on the information. Only in the Arabic countries you should put things on the right, but in the rest of the countries on the left. So you need to learn a little how the people read and how the people think. So where to place things, and also to use the words, because even if you talk to a 30 years old person, it's not the same to if your target are waiters than if your target are scientifics, because they communicate in a completely different way. So the communication in the user experience is really important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take this into account, the people don't get your information.
Yeah, no, definitely. And how do you go about figuring that out? Do you interview people? Do you look at their desks? I mean, what's the sort of approach to understand them?
Yeah, you need to do interviews, but first you need to know who do you want to target. Yeah. Because it's important to have an idea more or less of who do you want to get. Sometimes it doesn't work, and the people coming to your web page or product is another completely different. But you need to know more or less who do you want to target, and then you need to talk to them. And you need to know where do they search for information and how they do things. It's important to know their daily routine and what do they do, how they approach the technology. and what are their difficulties, their problems.
Okay. And how do you, when you say you interview them, what does an interview feel like? What would they experience?
Well, I do it, well, now it's online. Now it's not the nicest way, but I like to do it more in person. So then you need to try to be really neutral. So not to say something that can impulse them to say something that you want to hear. So you need to be really neutral. And you need to ask them really questions that they can tell you how they feel. And you need to try to create trust. Otherwise, they won't tell you. And you need to be aware that sometimes people tell you what they think, but it's not true. Because we are not aware what we do and why we do things. So you need to be aware that sometimes they are telling you something, but if you put the laptop in front of them and you then let them do things, they will do it completely different. So you need to believe parts of the thing, not because they are lying, but because they don't know. And then you need to talk, but also to let them try and to see how they react and how they do it.
Yeah, because you almost want to give them some mock-ups and prototypes of what you're trying to do and get them to work with it, almost in a sort of hidden view where you were sitting behind a camera watching them work and see what they think.
Yes. Yeah, it's important because our brain, sometimes we think when people ask us something, we would give an answer, but sometimes it's what we think we are thinking, but it's not the way we behave. And other people can see it, but we don't see it. And if you ask, we are telling you the truth, and we are saying what we think is true, but it's not always the case. So you need to be aware of it because it's not that easy.
Yeah, it reminds me of something we did years ago. We were trying to get people to use a new product, and the guys were getting very, very fixated on the laptops that we were going to get, not the product. Yeah. And we gave them. We had almost two rooms. One room with a poor setup, and one with a great setup. And it was the same product. And all the people that had the great setup said the product was fantastic. All the guys that had the bad laptops said it was a terrible product. And you're like, it was so, it was just to prove the point that the product actually didn't have an issue. It was all about the tooling, which won't matter in the long term.
Of course.
So, okay. And when you get involved in a project, at least, what is your sort of tips that or things you look for to make sure that you're successful?
Well, first I need to know really good the company and to know how they want to communicate the product, because this is also really important. You as a company, what do you want to get from it? What do you want the people to tell about you? Because I'm focused more on the communication. So it's like, okay, do you want the people to tell that you are fast, that you are always there, that they can trust you? Or what do you want to get what do you want the people to say about you? How do you want them to communicate about your product? So this is really important. And then to create like the buyer persona, but for the company, to communicate everything in one way so that people can feel trust about them, because otherwise you communicate in many different ways inside the same company and the people lose confidence. And if you ask them, they don't know why, but they tell you, I don't trust this company, but they cannot tell you why. So you need to create like a personality and to be really strong with that personality and to communicate the way you want to be seen. And then when you have this and you have the buyer persona, when you have all the strong communication, then you can create the communication inside the tool also. Because it's not only what you put in social media, it's how you communicate inside the tool, the wording you use and the way you place the words and how you say everything. Yeah. So then it's important that everything match and everything follows the same structure.
And how do you keep that in sync? Because that would be quite difficult, I'd imagine, to keep in sync.
Well, it's difficult at the beginning, and it also depends how the company works, because some companies, they say, no, I'm doing it right. I want to continue the same way. So this is difficult. But when they understand, it's like, for example, Coca-Cola. They do everything in the same way. You see something from Coca-Cola, you know it's them. Yeah. So the important is when you create it from the beginning and you create a persona, and you create like the persona with name and age and everything, you also need to create a voice brand. So then you have the voice. And you say what things you can say, what things you cannot say, how can you say it, in which tone you have to talk, even which emoticons you can use or not use. Because when you define everything and you have like a booklet with all the information, like a manual, then you start building from there, and everyone is building from the same place and starting from the same place, and then everything goes together. But you need to do this at the beginning. If you start doing it later, then it takes more work. Because people is used to do it in one way, and to change it is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's a branding exercise to a large extent.
Yeah.
And the brand, and it's almost the life cycle of a child to an adult. You've got to start with the basics, get them to eat properly, and then crawl, and then walk, and then run.
Yes.
And what would be one of your sort of biggest challenges in a project?
Well, one of the challenges is to make understand the companies how important it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is people that they understand, and that's why they bring me there. But then some of the owners of the companies is like, no, but I always done it this way. And like, yes, but you want to grow, you need to do things different. So that's the main challenge. When you start working and they see the results, then everything is okay. But the beginning to make them understand what this is important. Now it's changing a little. With the COVID, it helps for the people to understand that you need to differentiate yourself and be unique in order to grow.
And to explain that a bit more, why do you think COVID's made people more open to it?
Well, because you need to do things online. If you are not online, you don't exist. So then people realize that they need to be online because everything was online. So you need to be there. And then people will contact me, for example, like, okay, I have this kind of product, but there are like 1,000 products that they look similar, but I'm different. And well, you need to show them why you are different and what can you do different and how can you solve their problem. So then they realize that there are many, for example, marketing companies. There are thousands of marketing companies. And you work with the one that you feel that are closer to you and they communicate in the same way and you feel you trust them. So you need to create your personality to reach your people.
So when you get involved in a project, obviously you mentioned understanding the company is important, but are you talking now sort of internal products or projects, or you're looking at external ones as well? So B2B versus B2C versus, I guess, whatever the acronym is for internal.
Well, I work more in B2B, but the thing is now it doesn't exist anymore, B2B or B2C in communication, because what you call B2B before, now is people. It's people like the B2C. So you buy for yourself, for your house, a laptop, and you know how you are treated. So when you are a company, you want to be treated the same way. You don't want to be treated as a company. You want to be treated as a person. And you are trying to communicate one-on-one. That's why it's really important to know the people that you are targeting in the company and what position they are and how do they do things. If they are the owner or if they are not the owner, because it's not the same. If you are the general director, but you are not the owner, it's not your money. So then you have a budget and you spend it. But if it's your own company, you behave different. But at the end, you are talking with one person. You need to know which person it is. Talk people to people. You don't talk as a company. So then there are no differentiations. You only need to know to who you are targeting and what kind of people it is, and just talk to them as a person. Yeah.
I think, if I look at how we've built product over the last couple of years, it's become more and more about the individual person as opposed to, you still do personas as a group, but you are trying to make the product personalized. So can they save certain widgets in a certain order so they can have the information they want on the screen that's relevant to them. You mentioned company logos. Having the company logo, even though you've bought a product or you subscribe to a product, having your own logo on everything makes it connect to you. So I can see where you're going with that, almost a people first approach.
Yeah, it's really important. For me, it's really important to go to the people. And then they feel that you care. And when you care, they want to continue with you. Yeah. Otherwise, they just need to go to Google and they have a lot of other companies there.
Do you look much into gamification at all and using sort of game mechanics to get people to buy into the change?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do you look at gamification? So use game mechanics to get people to buy into the change?
Well, it also depends the projects and the company and the product.
Yeah.
For some areas, it works really good. In education, it works really good.
Yeah, what I'm finding is if you can use good color schemes, red would mean bad things, green would mean good things, yellow means something in the middle. That helps to convey something in the system. And then also when you're dealing with something where you're dependent on things, being able to show someone where they rate versus other people. I did a project many years ago where it was all about processing documents. And the minute they showed people that they were faster or slower than the person they worked with, it drove everyone up because there was competition, natural competition.
Yeah.
And those sort of things, they're not really in your face gamification. It's like you're playing a game like a first person shooter or anything like that. But it is that intrinsic human drive to be competitive that you play on to get good results.
Yeah, that's true. And in some tools it's useful, but in communication, it depends. When you do communication inside the product, yes. Yeah. But also I use a tool for walking that they give me money. It's not real money, it's virtual money. But I always walking and I want to walk more to get more money. And I have I have to do certain steps in a year. Yeah. And I want to finish earlier. So I'm walking a lot in order to get, and it's just me with myself. Yeah. But I love to do it.
Is that about Sweatcoin by any chance?
Yes. Yeah, it's that one. You use it too.
Yeah, I use it too. It's funny, when that came along, I've always walked a lot. And when it came along and I shared it with all my friends, they all laughed at me and said, why would you want to do this? And I said, because, you walk everywhere, you might as well get rewarded. And in those days, I think they only gave you credit for your steps outside. They didn't give you anything indoors. Which with the pandemic, they obviously changed that a bit. And it's funny how that's like if I go for a walk for my break in the middle of the day, that's the first thing I turn on. I turn the boost on so I can get my extra 5 coins. And then I do all the 3 little things. And it's just part of my behavior. Like I don't even look at the adverts. So like I press the button, I do something, and I look down, it's done, and I get my coin and I move to the next one. So they're not getting the advertising revenue out of me per se, but I'm building up those coins. I don't know what your balance is. For me it's the same, and I never buy anything or anything. I just get more coins. It's nice. And we've got a medical company here called Discovery, and in the UK it's called Vitality, and they also give you points for walking 10,000 or 12,500 steps, depending which one you're on. So we're always walking 12,500 a day just to get the points in. So it's like that's a competitive against yourself. Yeah. You get that good feeling that you're achieving something by doing something healthy.
Yeah, you feel good doing it. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So when you get into the actual people themselves, I mean, have you got a sort of, do you do personality tests? Do you do sort of anything like that to understand the people? Any sort of questions you ask a certain way? Well,
I guess it depends also the project. So it depends what I want to get, but I need to know first if they are the owners or not. If they are not the owners of the company, is really important. So I need to know who makes the decision in the company, in the kind of companies that I want to sell. So when I know who I need to target, I try to know if usually this is the owner or it's not the owner. Because if it's your money or not, what I told you before is really important. The way you behave is completely different. And then how many people is involved in the process of buying? Because it's not the same if it's one or you have to target different ones. And then how they spend the day. What is the process to make the purchase and the decisions? Those are the questions that I ask to everyone. And then the rest, it depends what kind of project it is.
Do you find when you mentioned that obviously people, they tell you one thing, but they show you a different thing. Yeah. But do you find that if you sat with someone for the day and watched them work, that they spend a lot of their time almost breaking all the processes to get things done versus following all the process to get things done?
Well, I never checked that, to be honest, but I think we all do it.
Yeah.
Even you.
I just find it, because the thing about when you build a product is you're starting to put constraints on people. and you're making them go through a channel, and often that channel, becomes too restrictive for them to get work done. So they find ways to get out of the channel to get work done. So.
Yeah, I think everyone does it. I didn't make a study about it.
Yeah.
But if I'm thinking about it, I know some people come to my mind that they did it, that I know, and I did it too.
Yeah.
So I think it's something human. Then we always try to find the shorter way to do things.
No, I agree with you totally. And how do you find, because you mentioned a few countries that you're working with, how do you find the cultures are different, and does it affect your approach at all?
Well, yes. This is really important because, for example, the Netherlands, that I live in the Netherlands, and I'm Spanish. The way to approach a customer in the Netherlands and Spain is completely different. But completely different. In the Netherlands, you start talking about work from the first minute. And then if you have time, then you can talk about personal things sometimes, not always. In Spain, you first need to know the person and talk a little about random things, about the weather or your family or your weekend. So you cannot do it the same way in one country or another. Or in the Netherlands, for example, if you go to the office, they always offer you coffee or tea, always. And you need to say yes, otherwise it's a little rude. Or you can ask for water if you don't want to drink coffee. But in Spain, they don't offer you anything.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way of starting a meeting is different. It's like you have a protocol to follow, and you need to adapt. When I came to the Netherlands, they were always telling me that I was too nice. But it was because I was asking them personal questions and trying to have a chit chat. And for them, it was like, oh, you are too nice. I was like, okay, I'm normal in Spain. So I have to change a little. And when you talk with Russia, it's completely different too. With Switzerland, it's different. And now with Burundi, it's also another completely different thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the exposure that you've had, Russia and the Netherlands, and it is similar, a similar experience that how you've got to adapt to fit the room, and know the culture. It's the same in when I worked a bit in the UAE and Kuwait and all those places. Mm-hmm. There's certain cultural things there you have to accept and be aware of, and it's good for you. I think everyone needs to experience other cultures and appreciate them.
Yeah, I love it. I really like it. It's like a challenge every time.
Have you picked up any other languages while you've been doing that, just out of interest, or do you just speak?
No, I do it only in Spanish and English.
Okay.
Yeah, because to do marketing and to do communication in marketing, you need to be creative, and you need to know the vocabulary, and you need to know expressions. So to learn a language in a level, for example, Dutch is really complicated. To learn Dutch in a level that you can be creative you need, I think, 20 years or something like that. It's too difficult at that.
Well, that's exactly what I was wondering, is that English, I know English is like the default for most things, but if I think about most products, bringing in another language is quite a big step. In some cases, you're almost redoing the whole application to make it useful. And you mentioned sort of left to right versus right to left. I'm thinking also about Asian languages. Japanese would be one, and Chinese, of course, where you've got a whole different script you've got to deal with. So, and Korean.
You need to see how they read. It's also like the colors. The colors you use for each country are not the same. What is good for example, McDonald's, if you check McDonald's webpage, in Germany is white and really empty. And if you go to China and you check McDonald's, it's a really strong brand, but the webpage is completely different. In China, it's red and with big colors and full of things in the screen. So you need to adapt also to the market, how they communicate and what is nice for them.
Yeah. I never thought about that.
The country, the age, the gender, the studies. So there are many aspects that you need to think about before you use one color or another color, or more text, more video.
And I suppose if you're also engaging more on mobile versus web, you also have different. The size of the images. You do it for the phone or the reviews.
If you want to check reviews, you do it in the phone. But if you want to buy something, usually you do it in the laptop. You don't buy in the phone because it's more difficult. Sometimes you have to write your name and your address and many things, and in the phone is difficult. People review things in the phone and buy in the laptop. So you need to think about it in order to show the information that they look in the phone, to show it better in the phone, and what they need to buy do is better in the laptop.
It's interesting you say that, because I find that not always the case personally. So I'm thinking about Amazon and I'm thinking about Takealot, which is the South African version. Those are apps that's much easier just to buy on the phone. But usually when I
have your password and your profile created.
Correct.
So
but also
it's easy.
But also typically when you go into those apps, you know what you want to buy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy, battery packs or whatever it is. Easy to buy that. I know exactly how to get it, all that kind of stuff. But when you're looking at something like a couch or something like that, where you want to actually research and whatever, then you have to sit behind a desktop, because you want to have multiple pages open and you want to be able to see pictures and all that. With your phone, you can do it, you can zoom in and out, but it's never as comfortable. So that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way until you mentioned it.
Yeah, there are many studies about the brain, how it works, and most of people do it that way. Yeah, because when you have to write in the phone, it's difficult. Yeah. But if you go to Amazon, you have your user and everything. You don't need to write your data again, so you can do it on the phone. But if it's like a couch, something that you want to buy once, in the phone is really complicated. You can check reviews and these kind of things on the phone, but then when you go to buy, you go to the laptop.
Yeah, I definitely, would could see it as you're opening the web pages, you're reviewing it, and then when you get home, you open the same web pages on your laptop, you're having a look. I could definitely see that.
And also for to book a hotel, most people do it in the laptop for the hotels too. The reviews and
especially if you go somewhere. Yeah, sorry, say again.
Yeah, you can check on the phone and check for reviews and things, but then when you want to really book the room, you go to the laptop. Most of the people, not everyone, but most of them.
Yeah, I would definitely say if it's somewhere you've never been before, I could see you spending a lot of time researching, so you'd want to have it on a laptop. But if we go to the same places often, it's really about availability. Do they have it yet? Book it. I could definitely do that too. So we got connected through Connecting the Dots, which with Freddie.
Yes.
How are you involved in that and in diversity and inclusion?
Well, I started with a few people in Spain, an association called Together is Better, because I volunteer in many associations, diversity associations, but usually they are like clusters. They are helping women or people of color, or they are in one block. So I was thinking together with these people why we have to differentiate this. If you can be, for example, a woman, white, a woman, black, old, and you can have one in one person. So why don't we if we want to be diverse, why don't we create an association with all those things together? Because what we are doing is more like woman talking to woman about woman, and black people talking to black people about black people. So if we want to be the people to know what happened and the problems we have, we need to share with different people. So for example, if I'm a woman and I have a problem because people is doing some things to women, I need to tell you that you are a man. So then you can know. So we are men and women, and we start in Spain, but we want to do it globally, but we are just starting. So we're starting small in Spain, and we are creating partnership with other associations and helping in other countries. And one of the things that we need is important is education, since you are young. Because if you are a kid and everything is normal, we don't need to create associations or anything. It will disappear. That is what we need to do. So we need to start from the kids. And if the kids can have good education, then we have a problem.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, all these isms, sexism, racism, we are all taught things. They're not. We don't come with them naturally. Yeah. I mean, we're in South Africa at the moment, and obviously everyone knows the South African history around all these things. Yeah. And my son's got a friend up the road here who he's been playing with the last couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he said, "My friend is brown and I'm white," and we just said, "Well, that's fine. It's normal." Mm-hmm. he's got a different background to you, and he didn't even like that. That was, he just made the observation, which was good.
Yeah.
And they're still friends and they still play, which is exactly what we want. And it's one of the things we like about coming back here is that the kids see, because when you live in the UK, you see a lot of white, not a lot of, where we are especially, and we want them to see diversity and different cultures and all the rest of it, because it must be normal, and everyone's, treat people for being people.
Yeah, that's important. And I do the same with my daughters. I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And I have friends that they are gay, and I have black friends. I have diversity in my life, and I'm an expat, so it's something diverse too. I'm more than 40, so I have a little of everything. But I think my daughters, they see everything normal because they are used to it. And I think if we teach all the kids that everything is normal, what is normal? For me, normal is one thing. For you, normal is another thing. So everything is normal and not normal. So we need to accept people for the way they are. I think it's more important to put out bad people from good people and forget about the color and the age and the...
No, you're spot on. And that's something that we talk about here quite a lot with our older generations that are still fixed a little bit on the old ways, is that you got to treat the person for what they are. And if the person's a good person, great, be friends with them. If they're not a good person, then you just move them aside and you find someone that's good to put in their place. So, and it's the right thing to do. It's going to be a long journey, I think.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
It goes slow, but I think there are changes.
It's the same as sort of I don't want to say womanism stuff, but when a woman is successful, it shouldn't be touted that because she's a woman that she's successful. It's that she's successful.
It's a person.
And that should be, and equality should be what it is. Everyone should have the same chances, or at least the same sort of help to get there.
Yeah, and I see sometimes there are events about women and they tell their story, and it's like, and how do you manage to be successful at work and be with your kids? And it's like, why? I will never hear that question to a man, because the men also have kids. It's like, we need to stop doing these kind of questions and talking about business and about the work. And if it's an event about family, then we talk about family. But when it's a business and a man, it's a business. And when it's in a woman, they talk about kids. And like, let's try to do the same. Talk about the person.
Yeah, look, I think there is a level of I can understand that to an extent. And I think COVID has helped a lot of families where the dads would have been at work every day. Now they've been at home, so they've been a lot more connected to their families. So that question now could be asked a lot more, because you're asking a man, like you asked me, how do you survive? Well, I've got a lot of help. My wife, fortunately, is not working full time, so she does a lot with the kids. But being in South Africa, we've got helpers that grandparents. Both sides are still alive, which is great. And then we've also got helpers that look after kids in schools. If we were back in the UK, I would rely heavily on my wife because she'd be the only one to look after the kids. So, but it's a team sport. I think that's what people forget. Yeah. And it's not, even though you might have the roles of, like, my wife looks after the kids and runs the house, and I work. Those are the roles we have at this point in time. When she starts working again, then I'll have to do more house stuff. And it's a team game.
Yeah, that's true. And it happened always. But I think we need to, in the public events and things, try to normalize things. Because I think when we repeat, like, the woman is with the kids, it's like what the people is getting is like, oh, I'm a man, I don't need to do. So we need to, I don't know. I think it's the way of communicating is what we are teaching.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I remember, I think it was when my son was born, there was a guy that I worked with. He had a child at the same time. And I was, that first month with the kid is the hardest, because they're not in any rhythm or anything. And he said to me, "Geez, you look so tired." I said, "Yeah, well, I was up all night with the baby." And he's like, "No. When my kid was born, the wife looks after the kid, and I work." And I was like, "Well, it doesn't look like that in my house. Sorry, it's it's just a different vibe, And I think that's almost it's a cultural difference.
Yes.
And I think there's a level of being, a man must also, in that sense, say it's okay to be involved with the kids and take the strain, as opposed to being all manly and only work and only socialize, which is what a lot of those guys did. So I think it's generationally a changing thing.
Yeah, but that's why I think we need to just to show it and to let the people know. Like, for example, we did an event the other day about the sports and diversity. Because there are, for example, if the kids, they love football players and they love artists and this kind of things. If you are an artist and you are gay, it's okay. But the football players, they are not gay. So it's like, it's not real. They are there. So it's like, why don't we make it normal? So we did an event with the elite sport people in Spain talking about diversity. There was one woman that she was in the Olympic Games and she's in wheelchair. And there was a man that he's doing water polo and he is gay. And they were talking about it. And we were like, we need to just to show that it's possible. Everything is possible. And you can do it too. Even if you are a kid and you are gay, you can be a sport person.
Yeah, well,
we need to show. I saw
a headline, it might have been last week, an American football player came out and said he was gay. And I mean, you look at those manly sports, and I mean, there was a Welsh rugby player that came out, well, Welsh English, that said he was gay, but there's probably a lot more. And as long as like at the level that you're going to watch at a professional level, that's a job for a person. What their sexual preference is or whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as they're a role model.
Yeah, but that's why I think it's important to tell you. Like this man from water polo, he was saying that when he was a kid, he was thinking that he could never be in the sport people. He couldn't be in the elite because he was gay. And he saw that all the gays were not there. And if someone was saying he was gay, they had a lot of problems. So he was like, I cannot do it. So if you can see that it's normal, then it's normal. So maybe in 30, 40 years.
Well, you look at how far we've come in a lot of ways. I mean, the new £50 note has got Alan Turing on, who should be known for all his mathematical brilliance and cracking the Enigma codes. But unfortunately, there was a sad part to him being, targeted as being a gay man. I'm glad that they've tried to do something to rectify, but you'll never rectify what he went through because he unfortunately, he never saw any of that stuff. But and that's almost the problem with diversity. With being not diversity. What's the word? Diversity. I can't say the word, but breaking people apart and creating gaps. Is people won't come forward and do things, and those people might be the most important people that we need. So
I think with time we will get it there. We just need time.
Yeah, we will. So if someone wanted to get in contact with you to get involved, how would they do that?
Well, the best way to do it is through LinkedIn. Okay. That's the easiest way. Other way, they can go to the webpage. If it's for diversity, it's Together is Better Hub. So this is the webpage for diversity. And for me, for my company in communication is define.com.
Okay, great stuff. Well, thanks very much for being on the podcast, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Heather Bicknell is our producer and editor. Thank you, Heather, for your hard work on this episode. Please subscribe to the series and rate us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. Follow us on Twitter @the DWW Podcast. The show notes and transcripts will be available on the website www.digitalworkspace.works. Please also visit our website www.digitalworkspace.works and subscribe to our newsletter. And lastly, if you found this episode useful, please share with your friends or colleagues.